What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to Week 14 of my weekly NFL pick show for the 2016-2017 NFL season. If you happen to catch me on Twitter last night, you'll remember that I mentioned that today's episode is going to be a bit of a joyride, as I'm recording it early in the morning. As of right now, it's 10 after 8 in the morning here in Nova Scotia. The episode's not going to come out until this evening, and that is due to silly work schedules. But we're going to get through this episode. This is going to be probably the lightning quick episode of the season. We're not going to go into as much detail in each individual game as we're used to, so this is going to be a quicker episode for you this week. Hopefully the picks end up just as good. Let's talk about Week 13 for a minute before we get into the picks. Week 13, our third straight quite successful week here, pretty well across the board. We went 10-5 straight up in Week 13, double digits, gotta love it. 119 up, 71 down, with the 2 ties so far on the season. Against the spread, another successful week. 9-6 against the spread. That has us 103 up, 85 down, with 4 pushes against the spread on the season. I'm liking those numbers. Over-under, we were almost there. We were 7-8 over-under, and I had the chance to go 8-7 based on the Monday night game, but Indianapolis got a little score-happy against the hapless New York Jets, so we ended up 7-8 in Week 13. Over-under, that has us 104 up, 87 down, with 1 push on the season so far, over-under. Platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, incredibly successful week. Start with the bronze pick, where we swept the table. That was the Baltimore-Miami game. Holy cow, what a blowout that was. Baltimore beats Miami 38-6. I told you to take Baltimore to win that game. I told you to go Baltimore minus 3.5, so that was a big-time win against the spread. And over-under, I told you to go over 41 points. Baltimore almost clears that on their own, so that is a win there as well, so we swept the bronze pick. Silver pick, I told you to go New England over Los Angeles. That works out in a big bad way. They almost triple them up even without Rob Gronkowski. Patriots win 26-10. It was an against the spread win because I told you to go New England minus 13. They win the game by 16. It was an over-under loss, however, as I told you to go over 44.5 points. They only get to 36. Gold pick, Indy over the Jets. That was the game last night. They clobbered them. They absolutely destroyed the New York Jets. So that worked out there. Against the spread win, as I told you to go Indianapolis minus 1. I have no idea why that line was the way that it was when I got it, but hey, thank you very much. It was an over-under loss, as I told you to stay under 49.5 points, and Indianapolis clears that on their own, I think. Almost. It was damn close anyways. So that does not work out under 49.5. Platinum pick. Told you to go Green Bay over Houston. That works out. Green Bay wins a snowy game 21-13 over the Texans. It was an against the spread win. I told you to go Green Bay minus 4.5. And if you've been listening, that means we swept straight up and we swept against the spread on the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks, and I'm so excited about that. And for the second week in a row, we swept the platinum pick because I told you to stay under 46.5 points in that Green Bay-Houston game, and they only get to 34. 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread, 2-2 on the over-under in the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. Let's take a look at the Bridgewater's Finest private pick'em pools for Season 5 of the show. Starting in the straight-up pool, I remain in second place behind InAMinuteMan. I think I closed the gap a little bit on him this week. I'm at 1,041 out of 1,521 possible confidence points. That's a clip of 68%, and it's right where you want to be. In Week 13, I pulled in 97 out of 120 possible confidence points. That's a clip of 81%, and we always like that, but it was not good enough to win Week 13. Shout out to our Week 13 winner, Walker the Line, and I think it might be the first time that I've called that name this season. 12-3 straight up in Week 13. Awesome week for them. 107 out of 120 possible confidence points. That's a clip of 89%, and it was good enough to win Week 13. As I mentioned, InAMinuteMan remains our overall leader in the straight-up pool. 122, 68, and 2, so still 3 better each way than I am. At 1,048 out of 1,521 possible confidence points. That's a clip of 69%. So InAMinuteMan leading me currently by 7 points, closed the gap a little bit there, increased the gap between second and third place between myself and Gilius Thunderhead. I believe I increased it anyway. Now I'd have to go back and take a look, but it's still really competitive here is what I'm trying to say. The top 3 spots especially, nothing is determined yet in the straight up league. And you want to talk about close, let's go to the against the spread pool. I'm in third place now out of 22 managers in the against the spread pool with 102. Yes, sorry, I had to double check right quickly. 102 correct against the spread picks based on Yahoo's lines out of the 191 games played so far this season. That's a clip of 53%. But in week 13, I did pull in 9 of the 15 games correctly. That is a clip of 60%, and that's better. Shout out to our week 13 co-winners, Holly Gordon, BradysBack, as well as Who Calls Their Kid Eli Apple. And that's the first time I've called that name, and it's one of the funnier names in either of my leagues. So they co-won week 13. They were 10-5 against the spread, 10 of 15 correct. That's a clip of 67%. And I told you it was close at the top. How close? Half Moon's Picks lead has disappeared. We have co-leaders once again in the against the spread pool. That is Half Moon's Picks and Holly Gordon, BradysBack. They're tied at 103. And how many did I say I had? 102. So the top 3 are only separated by 1 game. It's gonna come right down to the wire this season, and that keeps you excited, that keeps you invested, that keeps you motivated. 103 out of 191 games picked correctly against the spread based on Yahoo's lines. That's a clip of 54% for our league leaders. So, shout out to BradysBack and Who Calls Their Kid Eli Apple for co-winning week 13, and to BradysBack and Half Moon's Picks for remaining for Half Moon's Picks for remaining, and BradysBack for being the new overall leader in the against the spread pool. And shout out again to InAMinuteMan and Walker the Line for both Walker the Line winning week 13 and InAMinuteMan remaining the overall leader of the straight up pool. Let's take a peek into Fantasy Corner. Let's see how my fantasy football teams, my 8 fantasy football teams, did across week 13 in the NFL. In a lot of leagues, this is the last week of the regular season, and I had a shot early in the week. It was looking like I had a great shot to go 8-0 across those teams, and I ended up settling on 5-3. Things kind of slowed down later in the week. 5-3 in those 8 leagues. In the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook, I guess, did it again. I think I did that last week. NFL YouTube Prognosticators Fantasy Football League, I did end up beating Matt Coombs, Matt the NFL Fanatic, Stat Pack as he's known in this league. Ended up winning that matchup, kind of playing spoiler for his playoff hopes. I end the regular season 5-8. We're in the conciliatory rounds now. Obviously, I did not make the championship bracket, but I'm in the consolation bracket in that league. Week 14, I have a matchup against Gavin. Gavin OC4, as he's known in the league, and I believe on YouTube as well. Right now, it's a projected loss, but I don't think either of us have actually even looked at our teams for week 14. So thank you, Matt, for the matchup last week, and thank you, Gavin, for the upcoming matchup, and hopefully I can come out on top there and move on in the consolation bracket in the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Fantasy Football League. And as always, I'll let you know if you're listening to the episode on YouTube, watching the YouTube video, you can go down to the description of the video. You're going to find all of my results from week 13. You're going to find all my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 14. You're going to find information on joining the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em pools for season 5 of the show. You're going to find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, which I urge you to continue to do. And you're going to find links to other high-quality NFL YouTube prognosticators who get out there and do this every single week. If you're listening on SoundCloud, search NFL YouTube prognosticators on Facebook. Get joined up on the page. It's a lot of fun. I've been selling it to you all season. Get in there and join the fun. I promised you speed in these picks, and that's exactly what you're going to get. Here come the picks for Week 14. We're going to start with the battle for AFC West supremacy as the Oakland Raiders are going to travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. A lot of fun to be had in this game as you have elite home team 4-1 on the season versus elite undefeated road team at 5-0. Look, Raiders, they've won 6 straight games. They're 7-1 against the AFC. As I mentioned, they're unbeaten 5-0 on the road. I'm still going to tell you to go Kansas City in this game. Like, I can't take anything really away from the Raiders from their game last week against Buffalo, except for the fact that they did get down pretty big and they were looking pretty pedestrian there until they turned it around. Now, that comeback doesn't have a lot to do with Tyrod Taylor, but especially when we talk about the Bills game this week, Tyrod Taylor did end up being a big reason why the Bills lost that game. Now, of course, the part of that is, Khalil Mack, right? He's kind of a good football player. But, Tyrod Taylor, I think, has to take a lot of the criticism for them losing that game. That was a game Buffalo should have won. They did enough to win, except in the tail end of the third quarter and into the fourth. So that was a frustrating loss for the Bills. To take nothing away from the Raiders, because the Raiders did what the Raiders have done all season, is they get themselves in a hole, they dig themselves out of it because of Derek Carr, but this time it was the run game too, the run game kind of picking it up too, the run game playing well, the run game being a key reason why they came back in that football game. I'm starting to think the only way to beat the Raiders is to keep them in a close game. If you get them down, or if you get out to a good start, you get them down by a couple of scores early, they're gonna come back because that's what the Raiders do this season. Luckily, one thing the Chiefs seem to be really good at doing are winning close games. They're 9-3 this season, but they've only outscored their opponents by 39 points. Chiefs, of course, barely coming away with the victory last week because of a going for 2 pick 2 at the end of the game by Eric Berry, and what an amazing sight that was for Eric Berry to do that in his hometown. Really the only reason the Chiefs won that game. They really should have ended up losing it, I believe, but they won the game. They're 9-3. They've won 2 in a row. They're 4-1 in their last 5, and I'm very interested to see how Oakland is going to fare going into Kansas City. Incredibly difficult building to win in, obviously, where the Chiefs are 4-1, and this is going to be the most difficult road game that the Raiders are going to play all season. My gut tells me Kansas City. I'm going Kansas City. On the line, Chiefs are favored by 3 points at home, and I'm going to take that where it's a field goal or less. Kansas City -3. Total in this game, 47 points. I think you stay under on it because I think that Kansas City defense is going to show up. I think they're going to show up to play. Now, look, they didn't particularly do that last week against Atlanta, so I don't expect 2 stinkers in a row from the Kansas City defense. So 47 points, it's too many for me. Under 47. Kansas City beats Oakland in Kansas City, and Kansas City -3. And hey, let's talk about the Bills. Buffalo is going to play host to Pittsburgh this week. Pittsburgh, of course, had a very convincing victory in Week 13. Buffalo, as we mentioned, not so much. And again, as I said, Tyrod Taylor really needs to shoulder a lot of the blame for this loss. Look, on one of the interception, the late interception that he threw when the Bills, I think, were either the Bills were leading by a point or Oakland was leading by a point. I can't remember which it was now. They were backed up basically to their own goal line, I think from their own 2 or something. Tyrod Taylor takes the snap, and he's just standing there in his end zone. Like, I get it. You're waiting for somebody to get open. Throw the ball away. You can't stand there in the end zone for that long, waiting for somebody to get open. If you were on your own 25, then okay, great. Take the little bit of extra time and take the sack, but not when you're in your own end zone. You can't stand there for that long when Khalil Mack is pass rushing you. You just can't do it. Throw the ball away, new play, live to play another day. He didn't do that. Khalil Mack gets a hand on it, causes an interception. What happens, I think, on the very next possession? Khalil Mack, strip sack fumble recovery, just like the absolute, the hat trick in, as us Canadians would say, in one play. Like, Khalil Mack is a boss, and I think Khalil Mack is going to find some success against Kansas City this week too. I still just like the Chiefs to win. But if we're looking at the Bills having to now play Pittsburgh, not a great road team. They're 3-3, so I mean, hey, 500 on the road, you can't really argue with it. And they're only 5-3 against the AFC. But the Bills are only 3-5 against the AFC, and at home they're only 3-2. So they've only had five home games. They're only one game over 500. They're 2-3 in their last 5. Steelers are 3-2, including 3 straight victories. They're peaking at the right time. Take Pittsburgh in this one. I like the Steelers. On the line, Buffalo only a 2-point dog at home. If that line grows to maybe 4 points, 5 points, something like that, so if that line really takes off later in the week, you might be tempted to hedge your bets here and go Buffalo +5. As of right now, where it's only +2, I think you got to take the favorite side of that and take Pittsburgh -2 on the road in Buffalo. Total in this game is also 47 points. For this one, I'm going to tell you to go over. Pittsburgh's offense is really clicking here, and I just like the prospects of Ben Roethlisberger playing that Buffalo defense, who did really fall apart against Oakland last week. Could be a couple of garbage time scores late in the game, but I like that game to go over 47. So, Pittsburgh beats Buffalo in Buffalo. Pittsburgh -2 on the line, over 47 points. Battle of Ohio here, as the Cincinnati Bengals are going to travel to Cleveland to play the Browns, and I really have absolutely zero reasoning for this other than, again, I don't think Cleveland's going 0-16. I'm going to take the Browns, and I really have no statistical justification for it. It's kind of a gut feeling. As I said, if Cleveland's going to win a game this season, it's going to be at home against a team that struggles on the road. Cincinnati does kind of fit that bill. They're only 1-5 on the road this season. They really have nothing left to play for. This is one of those games where it's like, oh, we're playing for pride. But I mean, it's against a winless team. So is there really a lot of pride that's being played for there? I guess Battle of Ohio, as I talked about a little bit in the comment section of last week's video. Or maybe it might have even been the week before. But I don't think Cleveland goes 0-12 or 0-16. They're already 0-12. Does that mean that I think they win some of their more difficult games this season? No. But this is a game that you have to call this game winnable when it's Cincinnati with no AJ Green. They still got Tyler Eifert, so Cleveland's going to have to figure out a way to, I don't know, play some defense, especially run defense. But I'm just going to go with it. Call me insane, I guess, if you want. I just don't think Cleveland goes 0-16. So I'm going to take the Browns this week to beat the Bengals. On the line, Cleveland a 6-point dog at home. It was another one where even if I was taking Cincinnati, I think I'd like Cleveland's side of that line. It's almost a touchdown, and I don't think you can give Cincinnati's offense that much credit without AJ Green. So Cleveland +6. Total in this game, 43.5 points. I'm going to tell you to go over on it. It's a relatively low number, 43.5, and you don't know what you're going to get from Cleveland's defense. Robert Griffin III may be starting at quarterback for Cleveland this week, so that at least gives them a quarterback that's got some weaponry, I guess. So he's got some tricks in his bag, I guess. So 43.5, I think Cleveland will score their points. I think Cincinnati will score their points. 43.5, it's low enough. We're going to take the over on that one. Over 43.5 points. Cleveland upsets Cincinnati in Cleveland. I like Cleveland +6 and over 43.5. Tennessee Titans are going to play host to the Denver Broncos. Now, obviously, with the Titans in that division, I mean, everything is still up for grabs there. You got 3 teams at 6-6, all co-leading that division. None of them have been playing particularly spectacularly, but they're all still in there. And of those 3 teams, the Tennessee Titans are the only team so far on the season who has scored more points than they've given up. Indy is exactly at 0 net points for the season, 3-11 and 3-11, and that was after blowing out the Jets. There are a number of people that are on Tennessee in this game based on the fact that Tennessee's playing at home. And, you know, you don't really know what you're going to get out of the Broncos offense. You don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. We have to assume it's going to be Trevor Siemian, as Paxton Lynch did not look good last week against Jacksonville. So you have to assume, hopefully, if he's healthy, Trevor Siemian is back in there. But if Paxton Lynch is back in there, Tennessee could very well have a field day. Denver still got some injuries on defense. It's a very popular pick to go with Tennessee. That's not the way I'm going to go. I have to defer to the team that I feel overall is the better team, and for me, that is Denver. That is still Denver's defense, even if they're missing a couple of pieces. That's still that scheme. The Denver offense has the potential to blow up at any time, especially if Trevor Siemian is in there, as he's now displayed himself to be a definite better option than Paxton Lynch, at least right now. So I have to defer to the better team. I think it's Denver, even though the game's in Tennessee. Look, Tennessee's only 500 at home. They're only 3-3. Denver's 4-2 on the road. They are a better road team than Tennessee is home team. So I got to defer to the better team. The better team to me is Denver. I like the Broncos. On the line, Tennessee's only favored by a single point at home. That's why I'm going to be taking Denver +1. Obviously, I like them to win the game. Basically a pick 'em. Total in this game is 43.5 points. Again, I'm kind of tempted to go under on it because, again, you don't know what you're going to get from one side offensively. The defenses are both fairly good. Even though that's a low number, yeah, why not? Let's do it. Let's go under 43.5 on that line when you got two defenses that are fairly talented. Denver beats Tennessee in Tennessee. I like Denver +1 on the line and under 43.5 points. Let's go to Miami now, where the Dolphins had their win streak snapped last week in a huge way against Baltimore. Miami's going to be playing host to the Arizona Cardinals, and this is another one you're going to slap me for saying it again, but it's all about the situation. And I like Miami in this game, despite the fact that I think Arizona is objectively the better team. It is all about the situation. Miami's 5-1 at home. 5 of their 7 wins have come in Miami. And if you take a look at Arizona's results on the road, they're only 1-4. This has not been a good road team at any point this season. Now, yeah, Arizona won their last game. They're still only 2-3 in their last 5. Miami lost last week, but they're 4-1 in their last 5. They had, again, as I mentioned, a big win streak. Based on the situation, I'm going to go Miami here. I think the Dolphins can get it done in their own building. I like Miami straight up in what some people are going to consider an upset, no matter what the line says. I like Miami to beat Arizona. On the line, Dolphins favored by 1.5 based only on the fact that it's in Miami. So I'll take that because it's only 1.5. Miami -1.5. Total in this game is also 43.5 points, and I think you have to go over on it because Arizona's defense on the road has been horrible. Miami's defense last week was horrible. These are two fairly good offenses. I'm not sure why this line is as low as it is. Or the total, rather. 43.5 points, I think it sails over. Take the over in a game that Miami wins straight up, and Miami -1.5 on the line. Battle of the NFC East here, as the Redskins are going to travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. I call this the Tweeter versus Team Sean Ryan Bowl. Washington in Philadelphia to play the Eagles. I'm going to take Philadelphia in this game because Philadelphia has had incredible results in Philadelphia. They can't win worth a lick on the road, but they can win in their own building, and their defense tends to play incredibly well in their own building. Even though right now Washington, objectively, they're playing better football. I think they're objectively a better football team as a whole. They're still the worst defense, statistically speaking, in that division. I like the prospects of Philadelphia's defense, keeping them at bay, so I'm going to take the Eagles. This game is a pick'em in Philadelphia, so obviously take Philadelphia's side of that as a pick'em, as I think that line may grow a point or two towards Philadelphia's side as we get closer to game time. Actually, you know what? That line really could go either way now that I think about it. Total in this game, 46.5 points. I have to tell you to stay under because, again, I like the prospect of Philadelphia's defense to keep Washington at bay. So, Philly beats Washington in Philly. I like Philadelphia as a pick'em on the line and under 46.5 points. See, some of these games I'm really giving you nothing to go on. I told you we were going to try to be quick. The Carolina Panthers are going to head home after that just bizarre sequence at the beginning of the Seattle game. Carolina's heading home to take on San Diego, and I'm just going to take the Chargers because I honestly believe that Carolina's season is over. Carolina gave up, just gave up in that game. They showed really no fight at all on the offensive side, on the defensive side. And I mean, I get it. I get who they were playing, but there's just showed nothing. They just showed me absolutely nothing in that game last week. So I got to go San Diego, because I think San Diego is, at the very least, still playing for pride. Look, San Diego knows full well they're not catching any of those teams in front of them in the division. And despite the fact that they're 5-7, they're outscoring their opponents on average on the season, which is something that I cannot say about the Carolina Panthers based on that defense. Without Luke Kuechly, I guess they just don't have any fire whatsoever. So I'm going to ride that. San Diego on the road, despite the fact that I don't think San Diego's a particularly good road team. They are only 2-4, but Carolina's only 3-3 at home, so they're by no means a world beater in their own building. San Diego upsets Carolina. On the line, Carolina's only favored by a single point. Got a lot of 1-point lines and a lot of 46.5 or 43.5 totals, come to think of it. I guess it's just that early in the week. I'm going to tell you to take San Diego +1 there, obviously, where I like the Chargers to win that game. And the total's 48 points. You got to go over on it because you don't know what you're going to get from Carolina's defense. Can't really trust Carolina's defense. San Diego's got a really good offense. Carolina's has a good offense if they want to use it. So 48 points, I think it goes over. San Diego beats Carolina. San Diego +1 on the line, over 48 points. After that absolute debacle last night, the New York Jets are going to travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Seems like it's the perfect time to play the 49ers. After that terrible game against Chicago last week, they benched Kaepernick. And it seems like, momentum is at an all-time low for the 49ers. So naturally, I'm going to tell you to take San Francisco. This is a game that I doubt anyone other than the fan bases of these two particular teams are going to give a damn about. The Jets looked like a peewee football team last night. Just awful. Honestly, these two teams are shockingly similar in that we don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. And it doesn't look like they like any of their quarterbacks right now, either team. Neither team can really play defense in certain areas, run defense for San Francisco, and the secondary and pass defense for the Jets. I'm just going to defer to the home team. I'll take the home team with the home team bump. I'll take San Francisco to beat the Jets no matter who San Francisco has in at quarterback. Niners are actually favored by a point based on the fact that they're at home here, so I'm going to tell you to take San Francisco -1. Total in this game, 46.5 points. I got to go under because who the hell knows what you're going to get from either one of these offenses. So, San Francisco beats the Jets in San Francisco. I like San Francisco -1 on the line and under 46.5 points. Do not watch this football game. Instead, save up your energy to watch this football game because this is going to be easily the game of the week. The Green Bay Packers at home taking on the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm not just deferring to the home team here. Spoilers, I do think Green Bay wins the game. I'm really interested to see how the Seahawks are going to respond as a team to losing Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas done for the season with a fracture, or it might have even been a full break in his leg. He may be calling it a career, and he's a cornerstone of that defense. So I'm really interested to see how Seattle is going to respond to that. It's a great time for Green Bay to be getting Seattle in Green Bay down Earl Thomas. That's a big deal for the Packers, who are fighting for their playoff lives, trying to remain in the hunt here. Like, the NFC North is not decided yet. If one of those 6-6 teams loses, either Green Bay or Minnesota, and Detroit wins, then the NFC North is pretty well over. But keep it within a couple of games and it's going to come right down to the wire. So Green Bay, they're desperate to win this game. They need to win this game. Seattle does not need to win this game. I'm not saying that they're not going to try. Obviously they are. But another thing, Seattle's only 4-3-1 against the NFC. They found a ton of success against the AFC. They're 4-0. They're unbeaten. But against other NFC opponents, they're only 4-3-1. They're essentially a 500 team. Green Bay, they're also only a 500 team against the NFC, but they get the benefit of being at home where they are 4-2 this season. I'm going to tell you to go Green Bay because Seattle may be ripe for the picking this week on the road. Green Bay beats Seattle. On the line, Green Bay 2.5-point dog at home. I'm going to tell you to take that. Green Bay plus 2.5 works for me. I think they're going to win the game outright. Take that line. 46.5 points is the total. I'm going to tell you to stay under on it because Green Bay can play run defense if they want to. They haven't exactly been showing it over the last, 2 months, but they can, so it's possible. I think these teams are going to score their points, but 46.5, I'm going to tell you to stay under on it. That might be a bad decision as Aaron Rodgers is playing as well as he is and Russell Wilson is playing as well as he is, but especially if you get a little bit of snow or it's cold, I just get the feeling the game's going to stay under. So, Green Bay beats Seattle in Green Bay. I like Green Bay plus 2.5 on the line, under 46.5 points. The Tampa Bay Bucks at home taking on the New Orleans Saints, all NFC South matchup, and you know what? God damn it. I gotta stop. I gotta get off the Bucks' butts. I really do. I still don't think this is a good football team. I just think it's a team that happens to be on a win streak right now. They're basically the Miami Dolphins of the NFC, whereas they were on a big win streak. I don't think it makes them a good football team. I think it just makes them a team that's on a win streak. Dallas is a good football team, but you can't deny that the Tampa Bay Bucks are hot right now. That doesn't mean that I'm going to pick with them this week, but it just means that they're on a hot streak right now. And I have a big poop-eating grin on my face as I say that. I'm going to take the Saints on the road to beat Tampa Bay, and you've got to be just fuming at me at this point. My reasoning is just that New Orleans... Look, both of these teams have something to play for here in this division. Tampa Bay is now tied for the lead in this division with Atlanta at 7-5. The Saints are at 5-7. They still have a lot to play for too, not only finishing the season at or above 500, but if they win out, 9-7 could be enough for the last wildcard spot. I would imagine the Giants are probably going to get the first wildcard. They're 8-4 right now. They've definitely got the inside track. But for the other wildcard teams, you're looking at 6-5-1, 6-6, 6-6, 7-5, 5-6-1. They got a shot at 9-7. If they win out, they could do it. They could get in. They could just sneak their way into that last wildcard spot. They've got plenty to still play for here. And I love the prospects of that New Orleans offense. Sure, the defense plays like garbage, but I think that offense against Tampa Bay's defense, I think that offense is going to do plenty of damage in that game. So I like New Orleans, even though it's on the road. They're not a good road team. They don't have to travel very far. They're just going to Tampa Bay, Florida. I like the Saints on the road to upset the Bucks. On the line, Bucks are favored by 2.5 points at home. Obviously, I'm going to tell you to go New Orleans plus 2.5, but you might want to hold off on that line because that line could grow to 3 or 4 by game time. So hold off on that line, but right now, I'm going to take New Orleans plus 2.5. Total in this game, 51.5 points. I'm going to tell you to go over on it because Tampa Bay has been scoring a lot lately. New Orleans has been scoring a lot all season, so 51.5 points. I'm going to tell you to go over. New Orleans upsets Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. New Orleans plus 2.5, over 51.5 points. The New York Giants are going to welcome the only team in football that has locked up a playoff spot at this point, and that is their division rival, the Dallas Cowboys. And I tell you, last week was the first time that Dallas looked human since week 1. And it was in a game where they were on the road against a good defense. This week, they are on the road against a good defense, a team that plays very well in their own building. I believe the Giants are, 5-1 at home? They are. They're 5-1 at home. Now, sure, look, the Cowboys are 6-0. The Cowboys haven't lost a road game so far this season. But again, last week, I felt like they looked pretty human. This is back-to-back roadies for Dallas. I don't think Dallas ends the season 15-1. I like the Giants here. I'm going to take New York in their own barn to upset division leader, division rival. I think Dallas finally goes down this week. On the line, Giants are 3-point dogs at home. Take that. Take that all day because that line could very well grow before game time. So, Giants plus 3. Total in this game, 47.5 points. I think you stay under on it. I'm looking for a huge performance from the Giants defense to keep Zeke Elliott tied up, to keep Dak Prescott, make Dak Prescott look like a rookie in this game. Giants win straight up. Giants +3 on the line, under 47.5 points. And the last game we're going to look at before we get to the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks is the New England Patriots playing host to the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, Baltimore looked really damn impressive last week, just clobbering the Miami Dolphins. New England got it done last week against Los Angeles, only giving up 10 points and scoring 26 without Rob Gronkowski. I was actually really tempted to go Baltimore in this game, and I think if the game was in Baltimore, I would take Baltimore to upset New England. I don't think their offense looked great last week without Gronkowski, and they're playing a really good defense this week, are the Patriots. So situationally, if the game was in Baltimore, I'd probably tell you to take the Ravens. It's not. It's in New England. Take the Patriots, but don't take the Patriots in a blowout here. Baltimore are currently 7-point dogs on the road, on the line, and I'm taking that. I'm taking Baltimore +7. New England has the credibility to be a touchdown favorite in a game like this, but I'm not taking it. I'm not buying it. It's a game that Baltimore could sneak up and win straight up. It's a possibility, so definitely take the 7 points there. Baltimore +7 on the line. Total in this game is 45 points. I'm going to tell you to stay under on it. I don't know what you're going to get from Baltimore's offense, but I do know what you're going to get from Baltimore's defense, and that's pretty damn good. So 45 points, it's one of those kind of middling numbers. Typically, I would go over on this number in a New England game, but I'm going to tell you to stay under on it. New England beats Baltimore in New England, but I'm hedging my bets. I like Baltimore +7 on the line, under 45 points. Making fairly good time here, folks. Let's keep it going. Platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks for week 14. Let's do it. We're going to start with the bronze pick, where I'm 7-6 straight up, 6-6-1 against the spread, and 6-7 in the over-under. My bronze pick sees the Indianapolis Colts at home taking on the Houston Texans. This is not 100% about situation, but it's partly about situation. Houston still sucks on the road. Let's be perfectly honest about it. They ain't good. They're the worst road team in this division, aside from Jacksonville, who is just head and shoulders the worst team in this division. One of the worst teams in football, except for the pass defense. They're pretty good. Houston, they're only 1-5 on the road. The Brock Osweiler experiment has failed. Indianapolis looked incredible last night, to the point that, like, even though the game was in New York, it almost felt like a home game for Indianapolis, didn't it? I mean, look, by halftime, it was mostly only Indy fans that were still there, and the building was pretty loud whenever Indianapolis scored. So felt like a home game for them. This week they get to go back home. It's a division rival, and look, the Texans, they're 3-0 against their division. So they've played incredibly well against the AFC South so far this season. I don't think they win this game. I'm taking Indianapolis at home to take the outright lead in this division. Indianapolis beats Houston in Indianapolis. On the line, Colts are favored by 4.5 points. I'm going to tell you to take that. Indianapolis -4.5. Their defense actually looked fairly good against, a pretty hapless team, but the defense looked good. They got the takeaways that they haven't been getting all season. There's going to be opportunity with Brock Osweiler to get some takeaways in this game. Indianapolis -4.5. Total in this game, 46.5 points. I'm going to tell you to go over on it because I loved what I saw out of Indy's offense last night, and I think we're going to get a whole big bunch more of it in week 14. Indianapolis beats Houston straight up. Indianapolis -4.5 points, over 46.5 points in the total. That is the bronze pick. My silver pick, where I'm 10-3 straight up, 8-5 against the spread, and 7-6 over under. We're up over 500 in all of those picks. Sees the Minnesota Vikings travel to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Remember how I talked about Jacksonville and how their pass defense was actually pretty good? I think Billy B pointed out to me in a private chat that they had like a top 5 secondary or something like that, statistically speaking. That's pretty impressive for Jacksonville. It'll be interesting to see if that's just a coin flip, like a one-season anomaly, or if that's the beginning of something more for the Jags moving forward. Hopefully it's the latter. I want to see Jacksonville succeed. Having a good secondary is almost meaningless against the Minnesota Vikings because they don't throw the football. It's all about how you defend the run. And Jerick McKinnon had a really good game last week. He feels like he's on fire. You've still got Matt Asiata as a change of pace back. There's the ever-looming threat that Arian Foster. I was about to say Arian Foster. Jesus. That Adrian Peterson is going to come back at some point this season. There are going to be teams that are going to be looking ahead to that. I don't think Jacksonville is one of those teams, but the point remains, you've got to stop the run against Minnesota, and I don't think Jacksonville is going to do it. I like the Vikings on the road. I mean, as objectively the better team, but I like Minnesota on the road to beat Jacksonville, flex their defensive muscle, and flex that run game. Minnesota favored by 3.5 points on the road, and that's the way I'm going to tell you to go with it. Minnesota minus 3.5. It's not too many. Total in this game, 39.5 points. I think you have to go over on it. I think Jacksonville will score something. And if they get to double digits, then it's really not going to take Minnesota much to get over this total. So 39.5, it's a low number. Let's go over on it. So Minnesota beats Jacksonville in Jacksonville. Minnesota minus 3.5 on the line, over 39.5 points. That is the silver pick. My gold pick, where I'm 12-1 straight up, 8-5 against the spread, and 8-5 over under, sees the Detroit Lions playing at home against the Chicago Bears. And look, big ups to Chicago for winning their game last week. Anytime Chicago wins, it feels like it's not an anomaly, but like, hey, it's awesome. Look, they won. And I mean, look, they're 2-3 in their last 5. That's not terrible after having started the season 1-6. So, I mean, they're trending in the right direction, but this is 100% just abusing the situation. Detroit, very good home team this season. 5-1 at home. 5 of their 8 wins have come in Detroit. Chicago still yet to win a road game. This is not a long way for Chicago to travel. It's not one of these across the country treks as like Seattle going to New England or something. So it's not a huge amount of travel, but they're coming in to play an incredibly tough home team who had a very impressive performance last week. I like Detroit in this one all day. Lions clobber the Bears. On the line, Detroit favored by over a touchdown, 8 points in this game. Typically, I would take the underdog side of this line. I got a feeling about this game. I got a feeling about these Lions. Detroit minus 8 on the line. That's the way I'm going to go with it. Total in this game, 43.5 points. I think you have to go over on it. Chicago looks like maybe they can get some points out of their run game. The pass game, probably not a whole heck of a lot of anything. But Detroit's definitely going to score their points. If Detroit's got Golden Tate finally going after last week, this Lions team is going to do some damage in the playoffs. You heard it here first. Over 43.5 points in this game. I think both teams will be able to score some points. I think Detroit just scores a lot more. Lions beat the Bears in Detroit. Detroit minus 8, over 43.5 points. That is the gold pick. And the platinum pick, where I'm 11-2 straight up, 7-5-1 against the spread, and 6-7 over under. As we mentioned, we've swept the platinum pick in the last 2 weeks. That's awesome. We're on a hot streak on this one. The Atlanta Falcons traveling to LA to take on the Rams. And you can't really call it a situational matchup because, I mean, the Rams are only 4-8. Atlanta's co-leading their division. But Atlanta's got to stop mucking around here. Like, they got to pick it up. Atlanta is now tied with Tampa Bay, as we mentioned earlier in the episode, for the NFC South Division lead at 7-5. This was a team that was dominating this division just a few weeks ago. They're only 3-2 in their last 5 games. They've allowed Tampa Bay to get back into it. If you have a Rams franchise here that is silly enough to re-sign Jeff Fisher for 2 more years after the weird, just inexplicable decisions that this guy has made over his whole career, but especially this season, you've got a team that I don't particularly think is going to be all that dangerous. Even at home, they've been terrible this year. They're 1-4. Falcons actually have a winning record on the road. They're 4-2. This is pretty well a no-brainer. Take the Atlanta Falcons to destroy Los Angeles in Los Angeles. Falcons are only favored in this game by 6 points. It's less than the Detroit game. Take Atlanta -6, even against that pretty good defense against LA. Total in this game, 45 points. I got to tell you to go over on it. Atlanta could clear 45 on their own. I think this is a statement game for the Falcons. They need this game in a big, bad way, as Tampa Bay could very well beat New Orleans. I like New Orleans to win that game, but they could very well win it. Atlanta needs this game. They're going to take this game. Los Angeles is only going to be in this game for about the first 5 minutes in the first quarter. After that, it's Atlanta's game all the way. Falcons beat the Rams in Los Angeles. Atlanta -6, over 45 points. That's your platinum pick. Nothing this week from SoundCloud, so we're back to YouTube for the comment of the week. Our comment of the week from the Week 13 video comes from BradysBack, Holly Gordon, who made mention, I had talked about, and I've talked about in the last few weeks, about how I don't think the Oakland Raiders defense is a Super Bowl caliber defense. I still don't think that. I still don't even think it's a AFC championship game defense or getting past the first round of the playoffs. They might win a playoff game if they're in the wild card round. Anyways, definitely don't think they're a Super Bowl caliber defense. Holly made mention about that and was asking about her New England Patriots. On what you were saying about the Oakland D not being good enough to win a Super Bowl, we all know the Patriots offense is a Super Bowl caliber offense. I agree with that, although with the Rob Gronkowski injury, there's some gray area there. Thoughts on the Patriots defense? Is that a Super Bowl defense? That's actually an excellent question. I appreciate it. We're going to talk about it for just a few minutes before I get out of here. Is the Patriots defense a Super Bowl caliber defense? Possibly. That's about the long and the short of it. Are they? It's a tough call. The Patriots defense has played well this season. They're a top 10 statistical defense. They rank number 9 in terms of yards allowed per game. In terms of what they've allowed in terms of passing, they are just outside the top 10. They're at 12th, so they're inside the top half. They've been a good run defense as well this season, ranking inside, just barely inside the top 10 at number 10. So basically, all the way across the board, this is a top 10 defense, except when you look at the points they've allowed. They've been allowing yardage, but this is the number 2 scoring defense in football. They're right up there with Baltimore, who has given up measurably way less yardage, but they've allowed just as many points as New England has. It's 207. In terms of the entire NFL, it's top 5. So is New England a Super Bowl caliber defense? I think yes, because it's a huge element of defense is scoring defense. Obviously, the way you win games is by scoring points and not letting the other guys score as many points as you've scored. And that's New England's bread and butter. Even if they don't score 40 points, they might only score, like, look at last week's game. Now, again, I understand it was against the Rams, so you got to take this with a grain of salt. They only scored 26 points, 4 touchdowns on the other side, and they lose that game. They only gave up 10. Now, against a better offense, they probably would have given up more than 10. But the point is, that's how you win football games. The name of the game is winning football games. Are the New England Patriots a Super Bowl caliber defense? My answer is yes. Thank you, Holly, for your comment. You are the comment of the week in the Week 14 video. All right, folks, that's going to do it for a rather rushed and yet somehow late version episode of the Bridgewater's Finest 2016-2017 NFL Pick Show, Justin's NFL Pick Show. We've been doing it for a long time now, in the midst, deep into season 5 here. And hey, look, we got further than we got last season, where I think I may have stopped after week 12. So that's pat on the back to me for not being lazy, I guess. That's it for me, Justin. Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Week 14 is in the books. I hope you enjoy the games. We will see you again for Week 15. Take care.